Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is game 8 from the FIDE Women's World Chess Championship match 2025. Tan Zhongyi with the white pieces here trailing Ju Wenjun 2-5 in this race to 6.5. Opens here with 1e4. This is the first time we're seeing 1e4 by Tan Zhongyi. Departure from English openings. We have an e4, e5 game this time around. And this one here considered a bishop's opening, Vienna Hybrid. All right, bad bishop outside of the pawn chain. Very healthy arrangement here. Bishop b4 pin, knight f3. d6 castles, and as soon as castles is in there, and the knight is no longer pinned, that's the moment to consider more closely the capture of the knight, and we see just that. And structural defect here on the queen side, minor piece imbalance. Let's see how play progresses after castles. Bishop g5, h6, and naturally we keep this pin. Let's see how black gets out of the pin here. An instructive follow-up here by black. How to break this pin, or how to get out of this pin without the committal g5. Be very weakening. Black's approach here is to first hunt the bishop. Certainly don't want to allow tripled pawns. So bishop falls back. Bishop is swiped. And in the process, white's queenside structure is helped a bit. This isolated pawn, isolated no more, joins a nice group. Healthy structure. This game remains level for quite a while. About 24 moves in, and we're still looking at a very even game. Follow-up from here, queen e7, rook e1, and now queen e6. No light square bishop anymore. This is a fine parking spot for the queen. So that was the plan, to get out of the pin. Track the bishop, put your queen on e6, and now your knight is ready to move. From here we have d4, knight d7. These knights compete for the e5 square. You'll notice not long from now, as soon as this knight moves, this knight is excited about doing something else, no longer has that responsibility to watch over e5. All right, from here, queen d3. Now, at this point, black goes with a6. So I want to point out some, kind of make a technical note here. After a6, white follows with rook a to d1, centralizes the rook. What I want to point out here is that if black went with something different, let's say f6 was played here, just to kind of reinforce that strong point e5, white really should not respond in the same way, namely rook a to d1 in this position. It's the first moment where you could plant a rook on d1. It follows queen d3. If you play rook a to d1, you're sort of letting black off the hook. No time was necessary to parry the pressure on the a pawn. So if you are going to, in short, abandon this half-open file, it's probably best to do so only after black has invested a tempo. We see just that at this moment right here. a6, okay, now I feel a little bit more comfortable going elsewhere with this piece. It doesn't really show up on the radar, so looking at the evaluation, you're not going to see a big shift one way or the other, but just a little technical note there. Game of inches. It's rook a to d1 at this stage. Rook e8, bishop f3, now b5. Not entirely sure what's going on with b5. I guess maybe in some cases, once this point is defended, has some pressure on it. Once maybe it's no longer has pressure on it, you could look forward to a5, and then a4, and you have a passed pawn. All right, white's approach here, knight d2, no longer as much pressure here. The knight feels that it could go elsewhere. Knight f6, strong post. And from here, b4. So this struck me as a little bit odd when I was making my initial pass through this game. What's going on exactly? The thing I want to point out first is this hole that's created on c4. Now, I'm not saying there's a way that black could take advantage of this, but just this sort of backward nature now, these c pawns and this clamp down on the c4 square seems a little weird. But let's see exactly what white's plan is here. There's some idea related to the knight arriving on this a5 square, which is sort of questionable. Here's another move that can certainly be considered here for white, and that is d5. Also, this d5 move, the timing of such a move is important. Playing d5 at a moment when this f pawn is obstructed would be ideal. If you're playing d5, black's reaction, once addressing the threat there on the queen, structure-wise, black's reaction will eventually be with f5, but it's so easy to get that in with a knight here on f6. So a move like this, computer is sort of drawn to this idea of d5, a pawn planted in black's house with follow-up moves, c4, playing in that way, doing something on the queen side with an invasive pawn. May seem a bit counterintuitive to play in this way now that you've put a rook here and then you're not capturing and having an open file, but you could go for this, try to claim at least. There's some long-term static plus pawn on d5. Anyhow, the approach in this game is with b4. In comes knight h5, knight b3, knights going in totally different directions here. Queen g6, very healthy move. Some pressure is nearby here on e4. We finally have now this tension resolved on e5. Let me throw this one to you as a pop quiz. How would you respond here? Feel free to pause the video. All right, computer says you could take with the pawn. Things are cool. But I really like black's approach. You first swipe that bishop, and next take on e5 with a piece. Now, why is this appealing? In my opinion, well, for one, you're not giving up control of that c5 square. So pawn is still around. This could be a great jump for the knight. Nice central post. Also, by maintaining this construction here, you sort of tame these this battery here on the d file. Anything more? Yes. This file remains half open for black. So there's now going to be this pressure on e4 with all major pieces. All right, from here we have knight a5. So this knight, what is its function exactly? There is a jump on c6. It does prevent further pressure by a minor piece on this square here, but is that going to be enough? This knight's sort of no man's land here. Conveniently defended with bishop to d7. And the follow-up from here is rook to e3. Right around the corner, we're going to have all of black's major pieces pinpointing e4. Notice there is not a convenient defense with f3 to defend this e4 point. You're going to hang g3. So it's rook e3, rook a to e8, rook at d to e1, and now an f5 break. Now at this stage, computer says best is to go ahead and chop on f5. Maybe we would see this in a different match situation. It's almost at this point where a draw and a loss here for Tan Zhongyi, it's the same You pretty much have to win with so few white games remaining. This is considered objectively best. The move in the game, Queen d4, maybe trying to expedite this quick entry on a7 and target a couple base points. Black's only 2 vulnerable pawns, really, in the position. This is what the objective best looks like. A capture on f5, inviting this bishop on this diagonal. At the end of this line, all rooks are exchanged. This pawn falls. You're not going to win this as white. Black is up a pawn. Black is for choice here. All right, white's try is with queen to d4 in this position right here. We get the capture on e4. All rooks exchanged in this one. And from here, c4 is played. So why not queen a7 straight away? Let's see what this would look like if the queen goes in here. Computer says to play in this way, but I want to show you how black can respond in such a case. Points out king h7 is very strong, and now in response to either capture, I'll just put on this one. In response to either capture, it says winning here for black would be this e3 break, opening up the queen here to c2, also influencing, undermining the g3 pawn. So you take here, queen g3 is very strong, targeting another pawn. Bishop can look to join in on the fun. There's a base point here, a target on g2 with the f pawn no longer around. Black is there first in this wide open position. What's really sticking out to me, one of my eyes is on this knight here. Doesn't want to be on the edge in these wide open positions. So however you slice it, black's going to be coming out ahead. The try here in a way with c4 is to get rid of a potentially vulnerable pawn. After something like this, the queen may be going into Pac-Man mode. Top move now, e3. Diagonal opens up for the queen. Pawn is ready to take another step. It has to be removed. Queen takes, c follows. And from here, the queen now enters on a7. And black captures on c4. Why isn't the tension resolved first between these pawns? Well, if you take here on b5, pawn recaptures, and what is white's target? Queen conveniently defends c7. This is secure. We're looking at a 3 versus 1 here on the queen side. All right, white's approach here is to meet queen takes c2 with queen a7. Black takes on c4. Queen takes c7. And from here, we have bishop to b5. Just save the bishop, find a nice parking spot, healthy, stable square here on b5. And finally, push your passed pawn. Now, some care must be taken here by black. This knight is creeping a little bit closer to the king. It can be very easy to go wrong right around here. In fact, let me throw this one to you as a pop quiz. I'll give this one to you as a multiple choice. Would you play queen d3 or queen b1 check? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, there is a difference between these two. A winning way in this position is with queen to d3. Queen b1 would be a draw. Now it seems appealing, maybe, to go with queen to b1. Notice after this follow-up push, not only is there this idea of a perpetual check here and then here, queen no longer sees f5, white has the following idea, and that is to give a check on f7 and then focus on a dark square. What are you doing about that? The computer at this point says best would be to give up this queen. Check on h1, promote on c1, and then fly back here to defend the g7 pawn. Notice if you try to defend with queen a1, that wouldn't be enough in this position because knight e7, and now there's these light squares that are a problem. Queen g8 mate. The knight and queen can quickly target either color complex. The queen would be out of position, in short, at this moment here, playing to the b1 square. She must stay a bit more central. d3 is an excellent post. Queen f7 check follows in this game. King h7. Knight f5. How are things different with the queen on d3 versus b1 in this case? Well, there's queen d7 to defend g7. Follow up from here, we see a queen exchange. One other note, if white goes for knight e7 in this position, there would be one winning way for black to combat these 2 points here, these two intersection squares by white. Black has an intersection square as well. The winning way for black in this position, way to meet knight to e7, would be with queen to e8. And things are cool for black, successfully defending the important, the sensitive squares around the king. There's a check, there's g6, pressure on the knight, the pawn is ready to run. White's going to be losing a knight shortly with such a line. So the approach at this stage, after queen d7, is to play the minor piece specific ending, which is considered winning here for black. Let's see black's approach, advancing the pawn just a step away now. The most efficient way to track down this pawn, address this passed pawn, is going to be with the king. The knight could only block its advance. The king, at least, moving in this direction, you prevent its further advance and at least threaten to maybe capture it in some cases. Let's see the approach, f3, kings improve, and we're right around the corner looking at pretty much a king and pawn ending with the bishop at any moment ready to dominate the knight, posted there on c4. In comes h5, king e3, and from here king g5. King d2 is played here, and after that move the bishop is able to slip into f1. I wondered if there was something else white could try here. You're sort of losing time if you go with the following approach. Let's say knight b3, the bishop hits back, and now it would be black's move. Here's how you could make some progress here as black. King f6, looking next at e5, maybe ready to get to d4. White is sort of running out of moves here. If you play f5, there's a path here for the king to enter. And what's also a little bit interesting here, I stumbled upon this line here where if white were to try g4 in this position, there would only be one winning move, and that is to preserve this potentially dangerous h-pawn to slip by there with h4, keeping yourself in position to still one day track the g-pawn, and then there you go. We have a passed h-pawn just a few steps away from promotion. So you really don't make any progress trying something other than king to d2. You might as well go for it. King d2 it is. From here, bishop f1, knight b3. The g-pawn is tracked. The knight is quickly getting in position to defend the pawn. But is it really defended? It could be captured with some calculation here. Ju Wenjun ends up sacrificing the bishop for the pawn. This is a one position for black. The g-pawn gets tracked in the end, and a knight's nightmare is on board, and that is a passed rook pawn. From here, knight check on f5, king g4, and now the knight goes to e3 with check. Why doesn't the knight pick up this pawn here? Well, the pawn's going to run. There's no catching it. So you might as well try some different path. This one is pretty clear that the knight is way out of position and a long ways off from stopping the pawn. You just can't stop the pawn. So something like this, here, here, here. You're not there in time. So a different path is picked here. Knight e3 check, king f3 follows. Knight takes c2, the h-pawn starts to run. From here, it's knight e1 check. If the king tries to approach this pawn, you're going to come up short. So if you try this, h3, king f1, h2, you can't get to this square. Now in this position, you could disturb the king. There are a couple checks, but both of them lead nowhere. Knight e1, king g3, and next up, promoting. And in the case of knight d4 check, there's king to e4. And now there's two threats. And notice there's no fancy fork to worry about, namely this one here, targeting these light squares because black would be promoting with check. All right, let's see white's approach here. The king does not play to e1 here. It's knight e1 check. King g3, this arrangement here that takes forever for the knight to disturb the king. King e3, h3, knight f3, and after h2, white resigns. If this one continued, black would be winning the king and pawn ending by a tempo. Let's see what this looks like. The try from here, you might as well sacrifice the knight before black gets the queen. How is black winning this by a tempo? Well, let's just see it mapped out. This is pretty much the best you can do as white. King here, push. King here, only move for black. Box out the king. After king here, only move for black to win. Yet again, box out the king. And now the coast is clear. This pawn will advance. Black, of course, winning. All right, in this one, though, we only go as far as move 53 in this game 8, h2, and white resigns. So Tan Zhongyi, this is now a 4th consecutive loss and an almost certain victory, I would say, for Ju Wenjun. Match score 6-2 in this race to 6.5. So what are your thoughts with this one? Feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.